now, Dominic, on to our UFC event from Saturday night.
That's right.
Main event. Goodness gracious.
Great balls of fire.
Derrick Lewis showing that, the power is just sometimes too much.
He does it again.
As he gets the first round knockout of Chris Daukaus, 3 minutes, 36 seconds in. Dominic, what can it really be said that hasn't already with Derrick Lewis? It seems like every time he looks like he might be on his way down, that maybe the level of competition's caught up, that the technical ability of these younger guys has caught up, and that he's going to start to fade away. He does something like this.
Exactly.
He just spams counter rights or right hooks, I should say.
Yeah.
Until Daukuas was just out cold. And
crazy.
I'm kind of at a loss for words. I want you to really try to paint this picture here better than even I can. That, what was Chris Daukaus just not able to do? So Derrick Lewis got that win.
Derrick looked good. He did, man.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell that whole round he was waiting patiently. It's like he's just cocking up this right hand, like it's just powering up on the video game, and then boom, he's just gonna wait to let it go. And Daukuas couldn't really find Lewis, truthfully. Like, as good and technical of a boxer as Daukuas is, he didn't really land anything threatening. I think he was just very cautiously aware of Derrick Lewis's power, and it altered his performance at the end of the day. Derrick threw some head kicks. He threw a switch kick. I always love the hidden athleticism that Derrick Lewis possesses. It's so impressive to me.
You always see it once or twice a fight, and
and all of a sudden he does like this karate kick, and you're like, huh? What just happened there? But I really think that played the biggest factor, is that Daukuas was just so cautious of that power, and that inevitably played to his downfall. Lewis was able to back him up closer and closer to that fence to where Daukuas didn't have anywhere to move, and then boom, he pounces on him with the right hand, the hooks. He just kept spamming them. Good uppercuts in the clinch, and he landed big. He landed heavy, and he put Daukuas away, man. That was his first loss in the UFC, so he's 4-1 now. No slight at all to Daukuas. It's not like he didn't deserve to be there. I felt like that was still a rightful kind of next step, if you will.
I agree.
But Lewis just showed that he's, number 3 for a reason. He finds a way to stay in there and beat these younger guys when it matters. He was very pissed off and annoyed at himself for his performance against Ciryl Gane. He wanted a quick turnaround. He gets it, and then has a great performance like this. And all of a sudden, he isn't going anywhere, folks. He's sitting right there at the top of the division still. Great performance by Derrick Lewis to cap off the year. The literal last UFC fight of the year ends with a Derrick Lewis knockout. I mean, how satisfying is that?
Yeah, it's wild because, I think the majority of people were leaning towards Chris Daukaus. He was the one surging, had the momentum. He's looked very bright for the future heavyweight division, or he looked like a bright spot in the future heavyweight division. Derrick Lewis has been kind of a guy that's been around here for a long time. He's fought for the belt twice, once for an interim, once for the undisputed. But he's been in the top of the heap of this heavyweight division for the better part of 6 years at this point, 7 years maybe. Headlined some fight nights, headlined a couple pay-per-views. He's what is he, 37? He's up there.
36.
So no, not young by any means, but it felt like, after that loss to Gane, it was like, okay, reality's going to set in again. Now it's time for Lewis to take his licks as he goes down the ladder a little bit. But he said, nobody told me that I had to sign up for anything like that. And the equalizer that is the power in his hands was just on point. And, it was weird. I had been kind of leaning Daukuas in the whole lead up. You just kind of ride the hot hand sometimes.
Yeah.
But then we were talking about this fight Friday. I almost convinced myself, and with your input, it kind of convinced me that felt like Lewis might win this fight, because it was like, well, what is Daukaus' game plan going to be? And it's like, well, he's a very good technical boxer, and he does have power in his hands. It's like, so wait, he's going to try to outbox outmaneuver Derrick Lewis on the feet for 3 rounds or 5 rounds. It's like, I mean, that could work. He could end up put on a really good performance, and we've seen Derrick Lewis can be finished, but it's a dangerous game to play.
Yeah.
You know? And for a guy who just made his debut in the promotion in August of 2020, I believe is what I said, which, by the way, was the month that we started this podcast.
Yep.
So Chris Daukaus has been fighting in the UFC as long as we've been doing this, which is not that long.
Exactly.
So, you know, he'll be back. That's the thing about heavyweights is they'll all kind of win and lose against one another in the top 10. So good to get that loss out of the way, maybe. But Derrick Lewis, once again, he's got to be in title discussion again. I still think he needs one more. And a lot of this depends on what happens in our title fight in January. Because I do think there's still a segment of the fan base that would be on board with seeing the rematch between Derrick Lewis and Francis Ngannou, even though we got that first fight and it was one of the worst fights of all time. But I think the pieces in play this time lead to believe a better fight will take place. But if Ciryl Gane becomes the undisputed champion after UFC 270, I think the road to another title fight is a lot longer for Derrick Lewis. But almost like if he depends on, you know, how long he wants to wait for his next fight. If Ngannou loses to Gane,
he could fight Ngannou next.
Yeah, they just did that rematch as I don't know, a title eliminator of sorts. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, there's some big fights out there for Lewis. I wouldn't mind seeing him fight Stipe Miocic.
That's what I was thinking.
I just don't know. Again, every time we bring up Stipe, it's like, but will he take that fight? It's so weird with Stipe. Like, I'm not trying to paint this picture of Stipe as like this guy who turns down all these opponents, but it just seems like he's at this place in his career where he's not trying to fight contenders. He's just trying to fight these big title fights. And I just don't know if he really can get that at this point.
Yeah, and how crazy is it? I was thinking about it last night as I was writing up the recap on this is, you know, Stipe reached the pinnacle of the sport, became the champion, set the record for title defenses. Derrick Lewis earned his way to a title shot, earned his way back to an interim title shot. Those two have never crossed paths, never fought each other, man. And it's just so crazy to me. I think that is a fun fight. I would say, should Francis Ngannou win next month, I would do Stipe versus Curtis Blades if, you know, Stipe would be down to do that. If Gane were to beat Francis and become the undisputed champion, I think you do the rematch between Ngannou and Lewis. But either way, man, it's just so log jammed up there. You still have John Jones sitting around, which I'm not saying like Derrick would fight him next, but you know, and then Derrick just knocked out Curtis Blades sitting at number 4, so he's not going to fight him. I doubt he fights Volkov again with Volkov coming off of a loss. So they're all just kind of sitting up there, and it's very weird. Next month, being that the title fight is 1 month from now, that does help a lot. And really, you get that clarity right at the beginning of the year. So 2022, you have all year to really hash some details out. But I am very interested to see what the UFC and what Derrick truthfully wants to do. I know he made it clear he wants 3-round fights in his post-fight presser, but I believe he's in quite a big spot to get 3-round fights all the time now. But
I will say if Gane loses to Ngannou, I want to see Gane and Stipe. I mean, that's like the highest level.
Awesome.
That is the highest level heavyweight fight, technical ability wise, you can make.
Yeah, I agree. That's true.
So I mean, it's not that these fights with Blades or Lewis aren't interesting, that those two can't win against Stipe. They definitely can, but I don't know. I'm still not. I'm like 1 foot in, 1 foot out on even what I want to see with Stipe.
Right.
You know, just it's hard. But Derrick Lewis in a good spot. I think that's clear. That that win somehow, if he would have lost, it would have felt like it was over. And then instead he wins, and now he's possibly one away. Exactly. Maybe not even that. Depending on how that title fight goes, I mean, crazier things have happened to where if Ngannou were to get this like quick knockout like he's been accustomed to do, Lewis could very well be fighting for a title without having to fight again. He could be fighting in March or April. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, that's true, man.
But obviously, like we keep saying, title fight happens in a month, and then we'll go from there. I will be curious, Dominic. You know, we put a lot of stock in this title fight to kind of answer, okay, the direction of this division. And in part, that's true. But, John Jones and his issues with the UFC have not gone away.
Mm-hmm.
The UFC and Francis Ngannou's issues have not gone away. The UFC and Stipe Miocic's issues have not gone away. The UFC and Curtis Blades' issues have not gone away. I mean, we have a lot of stagnant parts here, and I don't know if just this title changing hands or not changing hands is going to really solve a lot of that.
That's true.
It'll be interesting if Ngannou holds onto that belt, what that does, because him and the UFC have not been seeing eye to eye.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the reason why he has not fought since March, which is crazy.
Well, and they made a freaking interim title,
This guy's your Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
And you're not able to take an extra month. Like, oh my gosh, I can't. I don't know. I don't know.
It's weird. Like, the heavyweight division, to a sense, is in the best state it's ever been, but it's also in just such a logjam, confusing, at least in the top, right? It's just so, like, what are we going to do when you have guys like John?
While we're waiting for guys like Daukuas and Aspinall to become serious contenders, this is kind of where we're at. It's a lot of, like, people with their feet, with their legs in quicksand, almost, like, or something. A lot of these guys, and it's not all their fault. It's a lot of people having issues with the UFC, with pay, with, the kind of respect or lack of they're getting. And
a lot of them are veterans that have been there for years outside of Ciryl Gane.
Yes, 100%. So I just don't know, how quickly will these issues get resolved with all these guys? Will John Jones even fight in 2022 at heavyweight,
Yeah.
There's so many what ifs, but it has the potential to be a monumental year for that division.
Oh, one of the biggest ever, potentially, in the division's history, for sure.
But will it go to fruition?
We'll see.
Co-main event.